And then in Matthew 24, this is the last place, and I'll move on. Matthew 24, Jesus says, this gospel will go out into all the world, and then the end will come. Okay, and the way Paul was writing his letters and the way he was speaking, especially in Acts 17, the gospel had gone out to the whole world. And so in their minds, they were ready for Jesus. They were ready for him to come back. Now we know in our time, the gospel has not gone out to the whole world. There are people groups and nations that have never heard the gospel. There are places so deep in the Congo that you can't even get in there. You have to be dropped in by a helicopter or a plane, and even at that, you're probably going to get eaten by some giant snake or get attacked by some spider that's the size of a Rottweiler. No joke. Okay. You guys ever hear Ken Ham? Ken Ham Answers in Genesis. He has a website called answersingenesis.org, and he thinks there's a creation museum in Cincinnati. We're going to go there hopefully in the summer as a group. We're going to take a group just like we're going to the next conference, and so be looking forward to that. We're going to spend a weekend out there. But I know a guy who was there helping build the creation museum, and Ken Ham was there. This guy's a world-renowned creationist scientist. This guy believes that dinosaurs still exist in the Congo. He thinks they're really there, and the people have seen them. There's accounts of people in the Congo who have seen dinosaurs, giant lizards. So he believes they're there. They're still alive. Anyway, my point is, there are tons of people who have not heard the gospel. Okay, it has not gone out to the entire world. All peoples have not heard it, except in the sense of natural revelation. Okay. Verse 19. Again I ask, did Israel not understand? So he's saying, okay, the gospel has been preached. They have heard it. Okay, then did they not understand the gospel when they heard it? He answers, I will make you envious by those who are not a nation. I will make you angry by a nation that has no understanding. He just quoted Deuteronomy 32:21. And what he's doing is he's showing this. Israel did hear the gospel. Israel did understand the gospel. And they rejected it. And then they got upset when the Gentiles began to accept it. Gentile means non-Jew. So all of us in here, if you're not Jewish, which I don't think any of you are, any Jewish people? Okay, I didn't think so. You are all Gentiles in here, okay? Let me show you just two places. We could go to like 4 or 5 places, but I don't want to, not waste time, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So why don't we go first quickly to Acts 5, which is just one book back. Acts 5. To 17. Now remember, at the beginning of Acts is a great book. If you guys want history of the church, how it started, where it went, how it spread throughout the Roman Empire, or in their words, the world at the time, read Acts. Okay, here's the deal in the context of what was going on in the church. The great persecution against believers had not broken out yet. That's Acts 7 with Stephen. You guys remember that? Stephen gets stoned. Paul, the apostle, who was at the time Saul, was there giving authority and watching over the execution of Stephen. After that, the great persecution breaks out, and the Christians sort of have to hide after that. But up until that point, they were actually in the temple, in Solomon's court, outside the actual temple, and they used to meet, the whole church. And what's interesting is, as I've taught through church history, is in the beginning, they were simply considered a sect of Judaism called the Way. Did you ever see that in Acts? They were called followers of the Way. All that was a sect of Judaism that believed that this person, Jesus, was the Messiah. They had favor with the people. Of course, the Pharisees and the Sadducees didn't like them, and we're going to see that in a second. But as far as the people went, the Jewish people who were just worshipers of the Old Testament God, they didn't have a problem with them. In fact, they gained favor with them. All right, now watch this. Here's why they gained favor. Acts 5:12. The apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders among the people. Signs are something that points to something else, right? When the apostles did miraculous signs, they pointed to God. And it was to show that they were authorized by God to do these things. At one point, Jesus says, "You don't believe me? Believe on account of the miracles." Miraculous powers were given to the apostles so that when people looked at the apostles, they would say, "This has to be God." And then what the apostles did every time was they preached the gospel whenever a crowd gathered because of a miracle. That's what a sign is. A wonder is this. If I just raised a dead person in here, you would be blown away. Right? Like if someone was born blind and you knew it and all of a sudden that person was seeing, you would be blown away. You would be in amazement and wonder. Signs and wonders. Get it? Okay. The apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders among the people, and all the believers met together in Solomon's colonnade. No one else dared to join them, even though they were highly regarded by the people. There it is. The people liked them. The reason no one would join them was the story in Acts 5 just before. God killed 2 of the believers because they lied to the Holy Spirit. And so the people were like, I don't want to join that group, right? People die in there. And so they had favor, but at the same time, they knew stuff is happening there. Miraculous signs are happening. People are dying because they're lying. Let's just stay back a little. That's the deal. Nevertheless, more and more men and women believed. This is verse 14. In the name, believed in the Lord and were added to their number. And here it is. As a result, people brought the sick into the streets and laid them on beds and mats so that at least Peter's shadow might fall on some of them as he passed by. Crowds gathered also from towns around Jerusalem, bringing their sick and those tormented by evil spirits, and all of them were healed. All of them were healed. Catch this. All of Jerusalem is coming to the apostles who are in the temple, and then from the surrounding areas, people are coming, bringing demon-possessed people, sick people, lame people, and all of them are being healed. That looks like walking into Forbes and the entire hospital empties out. That looks like going into the psych ward and all those people with supposed mental illnesses, they get freed from their demons and all of them walk out with a sound mind. All of them. That's what was happening. This is huge. Imagine going into every hospital in Pittsburgh and just the whole thing emptying out. That's what was happening. Can you imagine that in a city, what kind of uproar that would cause? And it did. Look, verse 17. Then the high priest and all his associates, who were numbered of the party of the Sadducees, were filled with jealousy, and they arrested the apostles and put them in public jail. Okay? What was the result from the religious leaders of Judaism? Jealousy. Jealousy. Because they had miraculous powers. The people were coming to them. They had favor with the people. And if you look further, which I don't want to spend a ton of time here, but when they're in jail here, an angel comes and opens the door for them and lets them out. Verse 19, during the night, an angel of the Lord opened the door and brought them out. Go, stand in the temple courts, he said, and tell the people the full message of this new life. He's talking about the gospel. At daybreak, they entered the temple courts as they had been told and began to teach the people. Okay, they get arrested, they get led out by an angel, and the next morning they're back in the temple preaching again. Okay, this is miraculous. This is huge. Well, they get in jail again. I'm just going to shorten this because we don't have time to read the whole thing. They get abducted again. They get arrested again. And they basically have an opportunity to give the gospel to them, to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they don't believe again.